Well, as we enter into harvest season, a lot of concern about the lack of trade with China, especially when it comes to U.S. soybeans. And we've started to see some pretty substantial impacts in parts of the northern plains, particularly in North Dakota, where basis levels have dropped a lot as the PNW export market is essentially non-existent. Let's talk about this overall situation and the need to stir up demand from China and demand out of the PNW. Joining us today for a conversation, first, he's the president of the North Dakota Soybean Growers Association, Justin Sherlock. Justin, it's good to talk with you. How are you, sir?
Doing pretty good today. It's nice and cool here today, so hopefully we just avoid that frost word the next few days.
Yeah, I know a little bit of talk about frost over the weekend in parts of the northern tier. Let's hope we don't see that. Also joining us today for a conversation, he is the chairman of the North Dakota Soybean Council, Jim Thompson. Jim, how are you, sir? Good to have you on with us.
I'm good, Jesse. Thanks for having us on today.
Well, I'd love to start with perspective from both of you on just the current overall situation. As I kind of mentioned in the open, we're seeing basis levels drop pretty sharply over the last several weeks. We continue to not have a new trade deal with China. China's not buying U.S. soybeans. And I know in particular for folks in the Dakotas, that's a problem as a lot of soybeans go out through the PNW. So just talk about the overall situation. Justin, if you want to start, I mean, your perspective on where things stand as we enter harvest time.
Well, from our perspective, we're starting to hear from some of our members, really starting to be concerned about where are they physically going to put the soybeans come harvest. I just came from working on one of my grain bins, a fan for the barley and wheat that's in my bins, and I don't have a lot of room for soybeans typically either. We don't typically store a lot of soybeans historically. We put them on a shuttle train and at the elevator and send them out to the PNW right away. So, we're starting to hear from members. They're concerned. Elevators are, it's a mixed message. Some elevators say they'll take some are saying they might turn people away. So at the end of the day, we don't have a deal with China. We've entered the new marketing year as of September 1st. China has not committed to any new purchases of new crop soybeans. So this is kind of a first. This is new territory for us, and we really need to get these trade deals finished and get a deal with China, get these markets reopened because our producers need to be able to sell and move this product.
Jim, your perspective on this, and I know, of course, with the checkoff and more, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into building these export markets. And for North Dakota, especially to Justin's point, a lot of these beans typically go out on shuttle trains to the PNW. What's your perspective on this situation?
Yeah, I think perfectly to piggyback after what Justin said is we spent the better part of 40 years developing these relationships with Southeast Asia, and then in turn developing our infrastructure in North Dakota to be the most reliable, efficient shipper of whole soybeans to markets like China and Vietnam and Southeast Asia and in Indonesia and whatnot. But China is the big elephant in the room, if you will. And 80% of North Dakota soybeans used to be exported through the PNW to Southeast Asia. Now with the addition of 2 crush plants, that's more, 55%. But China accounts for the majority of that. There's nothing that could take the place of China. So yeah, it's a total different shift of thinking for us at harvest this year when the basis is screaming at you that, hey guys, you can't bring these beans in. We have nowhere to put them. We have nowhere to take them. And you can't really blame the elevators for that because they don't have an outlet for them. So yeah, it's a whole paradigm shift in thinking this fall. And unfortunately, of course, with the storms we've had this summer and the lack of storage and, the numbers we've seen is anywhere from 10 to 12 to 14 million bushels of storage is out of the equation right now. So yeah, it's just uncharted territory for us this year.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the storage issue, Jim, because I know that's something we've followed for the last several months, of course, since all those storms rolled through North Dakota. And Justin, you and I talked about it not long after those storms rolled through. And, we kind of knew then that this was going to be a problem come harvest season because it's not like you can throw up a grain bin extremely quickly. I mean, all the storage, to Jim's point, that we've lost It's not something that can get rebuilt overnight, and that's going to be a key piece of the struggle here, it sounds like, this harvest season.
Yeah, and honestly, when we spoke, a while back about that, I don't, I don't recall if we even talked about storing soybeans. At the time, we were just saying, how are guys going to store their corn crop if their facilities are out of commission? And now, here we are having to plan to store soybeans. And last time when we had a trade war, that's what a lot of guys did do. A lot of soybeans were stored in those, we call them pop cans in my area, all those little 3 to 5,000 bushel bins on the corners of fields that our grandparents, built generations ago. We haven't used them for a long time, but they come in handy. But the derecho wiped most of those out in my area. So, guys are really concerned. They're calling saying, what are we physically even going to do with the crop? It's also gets to the economics. Soybeans historically are what paid the bills in the fall. You sold soybeans in the fall to cash flow, to make your land payments, your equipment payments, prepay for inputs for next year. It's just changing the dynamic significantly. And, boy, 2026 could be a real problem going into that too, as if we don't resolve these trade issues soon, if we don't get we have lots of agreements with Southeastern Asian countries in particular that we can ship to out of the PNW, but we don't have those agreements signed yet. We've been told they're done. Well, let's get them signed. Let's get those ones across the finish line, start selling to those customers. I'm sure they're waiting to do business till we have a signed agreement. I wouldn't want to do business with someone if I'm going to get slapped with a different tariff a week from now than I planned on, because tariffs are taxes. And, they don't want to be surprised with a new business expense. So if we don't solve this soon, and if we don't get China back in the market, what could be hopefully a short-term problem that we can hopefully resolve and work through, this could turn into a multi-year surplus of crops that just is going to be really hard and lead to a major downturn in the ag and rural economy. So this is a really big deal to get these trade deals sorted out.
Yeah, and Jim, to piggyback off what Justin said, I mean, obviously, you guys have both mentioned, growers reaching out to the Soybean Council, soybean growers, asking what they can do, and I know in terms of the Soybean Council, I mean, you guys have, to your point earlier, invested so much into building these export markets and finding new uses. But, again, China, that elephant in the room. So, I mean, your thoughts, what can producers do here? Is there anything they could do to work with, say, the Soybean Council here as we work through the fall months, Jim?
I guess I look at the Soybean Council as maybe a source of information and resources for producers who are looking for connections to, any type of idea or solution that, maybe we can be a bridge to. And we're always open to that. We've always got our ears open, and our staff is really fantastic at digesting news every day that they're hearing and passing it on to us so that we can talk to our, the people that we represent from our districts. And, to put it in perspective, how important China is for us as a whole, we are the fourth largest state for producing in planted and harvested acreage of soybeans, and the eighth largest producer bushel wise for soybeans. I mean, we're not just a dot on the map. I mean, we are a major producer. So something like this, when we depend on that end user, it really puts us in a bind. So, I mean, guys are considering flat storage. They're considering putting them in bags temporarily. Elevators are conditioning their flat storage areas and even pouring new ones. So, I mean, there's solutions being made, but, looking down the road, we've tried to make inroads with other markets, and we've got our foot in the door in a lot of other Southeastern Asian markets, but their infrastructure isn't caught up to what China's is, and not near as big. And of course, we've got big ships leaving the PNW. They can't always get into where they need to be. So it takes a long time to build up that market. And that's why we touched on, it took us 40 years to get where we were at with China. So it's not just something that can happen in one marketing season, let alone the 2 to 3 month window Justin alluded to that we really have, which is now slipping further and further away from us. So yeah, it's just, it's just all about transparency and open information and dialogues, and Justin and I talking with our boards and just keeping, up to date with what's transpiring here every day.
Well, and thinking about this, Justin, I'm sure as well, you could speak to this, why it's important for producers to talk with you guys and talk with state legislators and lawmakers and talk with their congressional leaders on Capitol Hill, or finding ways to get their message to them. I mean, I think our elected leaders, this is something where they need to understand how serious this situation is, right, Justin?
Well, it is, and by all means, become a member if you're not. But I think for so long, farmers were just used to organizations such as ours, such as the Growers Association, representing them on policy issues. But really, we do need everyone to reach out to our congressional offices. Reach out to the White House. Let them know if you're, hey, we rely on these exports, we rely on these trade agreements to move this product. Agriculture is the backbone of rural North Dakota. If our farmers are suffering and hurting and can't pay their bills, that hurts all the rest of our businesses in our small rural communities. So it has a knock-on effect that we haven't even begun to really feel, but it's going to, really hurt our small communities and our rural banks, our rural cafes, the barbershop. Every single business in rural North Dakota depends on the farmers as that core base economy. So we've got to fix this. We're running out of time. Every week that we're not shipping soybeans is another week that we're losing that marketing opportunity before we're up against another big Brazilian crop probably coming next year. So, time is slipping away from us. This is our export window, and we're missing out on it. So, time is of the essence. Make noise. This is the time to make noise, make your voice heard, let them know we need these markets back.
Well, gentlemen, do appreciate the conversation today. Anything final that you would mention or reiterate to folks as we continue to watch this developing situation surrounding soybean harvest this fall and more across North Dakota? Jim, any final thoughts from you? Anything you'd reiterate to folks today?
Yeah, I would just encourage producers to not give up yet. Keep looking for opportunities. Keep your ears open. Always be looking at something maybe you're not used to doing, and you might just have to do it this time. And if it's something that works out, it might be something you adopt in the future as well. But be open to something different, because these times just call for a totally different approach to the way we do things. And we're farmers. We adapt. That's what we do. We're good at it. We don't always like to do it, let's be honest, but we can do it. So no, just stay positive and we'll see this thing through.
Justin, anything final from you?
I just echo Jim. I just want to tell everyone, keep your chin up. Things are tough right now. We got a lot of challenges ahead, but we'll work through them. We always do. We'll find a way through it. And you've got great folks working for you, both at the council and the association, really trying to find solutions. Whether it's new markets, reopening existing markets, working on the future of biofuels for domestic markets. We're working hard, but keep your chin up. Don't get down. Talk to your friends and neighbors. Talk to your family. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. And, we'll work through this together. We always get through it. We just take care of your community and your loved ones.
Well, I couldn't agree more with those sentiments, gentlemen. Folks can learn more as well and reach out, ndsoybean.org or ndsoygrowers.com for more information. Jim Thompson, chairman of the North Dakota Soybean Council, Justin Sherlock, president of the North Dakota Soybean Growers Association. Thank you both for joining us. Have a safe and happy harvest season, and we'll stay in touch as things move forward, and we'll look forward to talking again real soon. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.